So, good morning everyone. Very nice to see you all. I think there are a lot of faces that look familiar, and please excuse me if at times I cannot place you exactly. You have to remind me where we met. But a lot of people I also don't know. And so, to talk to you about today. Today actually is a very special lecture for me because I had no time to prepare. Absolutely no time because I'm doing so much lately. And I started thinking about the lecture in the last week or so, and I actually came upon a discovery. I gave a name to something that I've been doing for a long time, very long time, and I was not aware that this name is the right name for it. And so this morning I actually made the lecture and I realized how that I have to write about it. And so this lecture is the first draft of something that I will actually invest in the next year or so, because I am going to figure it out to its end. So what you are getting is actually a beginning of a thought, but a very important one for me. So I'm very happy to share it with you. Thank you for coming and good morning. So it's going to be a kind of a fast trip because I have a lot to say and we will see how, if we will have time for questions or not. If not, then you are very, very, very welcome to catch me. I'm here around still today and we can talk. All right. What I would like to talk about is something that is connected to our body. And I have been interested and invested in organic systems and in the way the body feels and the way the body acts and the way the body thinks for a very, very long time. What I came upon this week was something very simple. The differentiation between voluntary systems to involuntary systems. What are the involuntary systems? As I'm talking to you, I am doing a lot of voluntary things. Now I'm moving my hands, I'm talking, I'm explaining something, my head is, following the thought that leads me somewhere. That is very voluntary. I'm aware I'm doing it, right? At the same time, I'm breathing. My blood is flowing, my nerves are working. And on the middle ground, I'm walking from time to time. I'm not aware of every step I'm doing as I'm talking to you, but the steps are happening. So there is involuntary and voluntary, not as a dialectic construct. They are not either or, but it is a kind of a strange continuum, maybe, where you can see different places where something, don't fall asleep on me. Involuntary action. But I can control it with my voluntary will. So what we will do now, we have an hour and a half. I will kind of sketch that type of thinking into my musical thinking. It is really not conceptual. It's extremely sewn on the skin of my music. It's like, you've been doing something for a long time and suddenly you realize, so that's what I've been doing. Okay, congratulations, good luck. So, I'm going to play you, to begin with, not the best examples, but maybe I will give an example without playing that we all know. I would like to talk about Mozart, for example. When we hear da do 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 Yeah, it's an octave higher, but doesn't matter. It is very voluntary, right? Because I know where I'm going. Every phrase has an end, and it takes me. Yeah? I started with the do, and I ended with the do. Yeah? But in the middle, I had the dominant, which gave the tension to the whole sentence. Now, what does the left hand do? Remember? What is this?
Accompaniment.
What is Alberti bass? Yes? Right. And what is it? It's actually, yeah?
It's involved.
Yeah?
It's like walking.
It's like, yeah, it is the harmony, right? On the one hand, it is the harmony and supporting the melody. But why is that harmony? Sorry for my terrible performances. Excuse me, and I'm a bit low today, so it doesn't matter. Is that right? Yeah. That's the right one. It was almost half tone too low. Okay, so the Alberti bass, why is it so active? What is it doing? Yes?
It's kind of like a heartbeat.
It's the involuntary energy that gives the energy to the melody. Think about it. If it was just the harmony, think about it if I had a piano, I could have demonstrated everything. But if we only had the chord as a harmony, supporting, we would not have that energy. Yeah? And that energy is very mechanical. And it's actually kind of an involuntary stream supporting the melody. So it didn't start today, and it didn't start with my own music. Those things are ingrained in our music forever. But if I'm thinking about Mozart, his Alberti bass is supporting with energy the melody. The harmony supporting with harmony the melody. So where the onus is, where the attention is, where the whole field is, it's in the field of the melody. Yeah? We don't have an involuntary, independent place. Yeah? All right. Let's now go and listen to something else after you heard the Mozart performed so well. We are going to go to something completely different. And I will play you the beginning of Hidden, my piece for string quartet and electronics. And this is a beginning. There are two parts to the beginning. It starts with harmonies, just moving harmonies. But you will see that those moving harmonies really have not exactly a direction. They are like a statement that everything is diffused here. And then we will move to a place where I feel, we listen to it, and then I will talk about it. Sorry. It has to go here to the beginning. Yeah. No. And you can make it louder. It's very strange. Why don't I hear anything? Okay. Simply louder. Thank you. Okay, you can take it down. Okay, so when you hear this, what kind of faceless and strange world it is, we have the breathing constantly going, and the breathing is giving us a kind of a timeless, very cyclical feeling. And we have the, let's call it the solo of the quartet, but is it really a solo of a quartet? It almost seems like it is also an internal system, which is a little bit more explicit than the breathing, but it's also something which is working by itself. We don't know exactly when it comes back, we don't know exactly when it's there, where it's going. It doesn't have the clarity of a rational mind. It's simply there, yeah? I would like to compare it with something else. Actually, we could see the video here, because for a moment, this will be just a very short segment. This is a piece which I just finished after Poetica, and it's called Moth of Hunger and Awe, O-A-W-E. Let's go and we can also look at this piece. You can put thank you so much. Let's just hear what happens right in the beginning. You can take off the picture. So you heard the first gesture, and the gesture is extremely articulate. It seems like it wants to do something, no? It really has a will, even though the will is not exactly directed. It's not like in a Beethovenian melody where you are going somewhere. I really want to go to the tonic again, you know? I'm really restless to get there. Here it's like something is happening and it has a will of its own, and that will is is very apparent in every moment, but maybe something is stopping it from going its way. Yeah? So when you compare hidden, the beginning of hidden, which is really, from my point of view, very involuntary systems, to this beginning, which really involve a lot of the voluntary, you really begin to understand the difference between how those systems work. Any questions so far? I will just plow ahead because I have a lot to say. All right. Now, it's very, very interesting. Just a second. Yeah, exactly. Very interesting that for hidden, everything was very quiet. Indeed, it was so quiet that I had difficulty to hear the breathing in the beginning. We had to find the volume, right? And it was all noises of breath, and when the quartet was playing, they were not playing full pitch, full tone. They were playing very, either sul tasto or col legno or something that masks the pitch, so that we hear only movement. We hear only different variations of white noise. Yeah? But with the violin line, the voluntary line, it was fully there. It was not a normal violin sound, but you could really trace all the ways in which the gesture which the gesture drew. So I want to now place the involuntary and the voluntary in space. So if we think about it clearly, and I don't think anybody would want to argue about that, clearly the involuntary are in the background and the voluntary are always in the foreground. The one who screams and wants to go somewhere and wants to have the power, they are in the foreground. It also the same in politics, unfortunately. And the one who sustain, maintain, and make everything happen are in the background. But the truth is that it's not always this division, so I should not immediately become dialectic with this. But just giving you also a line to reality, because those things are actually not so far away from, they have a lot of connection to everything that's happening. So when we place the gesture, when we place those systems in space, I would get a field where in the front I would have the solo with its willed activity, and as I go to the background, I become more and more involuntary until I get to the very bottom, which is maybe the breathing, which is like the beginning of life. Life is ending and beginning with breathing, So I'm connecting this to a space, but that connection with space is very meaningful. And I would like to also, I will go about it the way that I wrote. I will now play more of Moth of Hunger and Awe, and listen to what happens with the orchestra. So we start with the soloist, but listen what happens when I'm placing the soloist with the orchestra, and then we suddenly have the space. And the soloist is in the front, and the orchestra is actually giving the soloist its place, its habitat. And its habitat is very strange, because actually the soloist in that piece does not live in that habitat. They are actually very different worlds, but once the orchestra comes in, we understand it gradually. Let's listen to that. So I will take you back to the beginning and we will see how that placement happens. Sorry. And you can show this. Thank you so much. separate worlds, and at certain point, the violin will is so strong that the involuntary system has to be drafted to support it. That was on that D, yeah, that we have, yeah? All right, so there is so much actually relationship between them. And such a gamut, a continuum, a big field of how they can relate to each other. In the beginning, there was a real resistance, real separation, and then with the energy of the violin, something was moving and getting the violin into the arena of the involuntary, into the arena of the voluntary. I would like to now talk about, so I talked about the difference between the involuntary, voluntary, in terms of the will, in terms of the automatization, etc. I place them in space, and now I want to make another connection. The voluntary is where you will see the word gesture appear. The involuntary doesn't have gesture as gesture. It would have lines of development, it will have breathing, it would have cyclical actions, but the gesture is something with a will of its own. Usually a gesture goes somewhere, or if it's not going somewhere, that not going somewhere, just like in the violin, which is really like doing a lot of things, showing us that it wants to go, but it can't in a way. All this energy, not able to just go, but going around one place. So the gesture is really connected to the voluntary. The idea of a gesture is connected to a clear rational, or not rational, but a clear will to act. But the involuntary, it does not work exactly in gestures. The next thing I would like to do, so I will now connect to a few things, and the next thing I will do is play you a whole piece, which is about 11 minutes, which is basically a modulation from involuntary to voluntary. It's a piece I wrote actually many years ago, I think it was 2009, which is called The Quiet. And it's an orchestral piece, we will hear it, and you will hear how the voluntary comes out from a very, very long introduction of the involuntary, and how it emerges towards the end. But before I do that, I want to make some more connections. So I talked about the gesture. I would like to talk about processes. We know the processes of the voluntary, right? There is, we have going towards an aim, usually intensification, going to a high point, All those things are very, very, very voluntary. In the involuntary world, we go inward, we zoom in. The processes that we can see, instead of intensification and going somewhere and going to a high point, you would see something which I would like to call infection. You have one state and it is infected by something to become a different state. Yeah? You have infection, you have evaporation. Evaporation is something that happens, very gradually, and it's because of something for example, let's take water. There is something in water that when the sun comes on, or when heat comes, they become gas, yeah? But the water themselves don't want to become gas, or not want to become gas. It happens to them. This is an involuntary process. Same with infection, right? Infection happens to you because of certain germs, because of something that's happening in the involuntary system. So infection, evaporation, or it can be sudden eruption that is a result of many, many underground processes that I didn't know about. And in their interaction, they triggered something. And suddenly I have a sudden, explosion that came seemingly from nowhere. Yeah? But in order for it musically, for example, to be gullible, to be really intrinsic to the music, we have to actually prepare it long time ago in the right way, not voluntarily, but show the conditions in which it happens. So, gesture, processes, in space, all those things can be mapped with those two systems working together. Now let's listen to the quiet. And I will show you the score because it will be more interesting. I think I have the score, yes. All right. So just a second, here is, I have it here, where is it? Here. Okay, we have the quiet here. You can open the picture and I will go, yeah. Okay, let's go. About 11 minutes. And quite loud, please. Nicolas. Three groups. So, you really heard here a kind of a development from the very, cyclical, from the very in the background, and not playing with the part of the instruments that we know as the carrier of the main themes, but also going to the subconscious of the instrument, because when I play a white noise on a violin, I am not utilizing the romantic technique of playing sound with vibrato, with crescendo, diminuendo. I am actually going to the involuntary system of the instrument, yeah, which always holds the melody and the gesture. It's always there. The involuntary is always there. But slowly, the voluntary comes out. And as it comes out, the involuntary supports it. And we hear again and again the breathing, and the breathing changes. It is not a regular breathing, because before the gesture wants to do a much larger jump, the breathing has to recede quite a lot to gain a lot of energy and then to go out. So I'm really weighing the relationship between them, how much help is needed to push the voluntary with the help of the involuntary, yeah? Any questions so far? All right. In the end, you might have. Okay. So we go on now. And I'm going now into the involuntary system. Where are we? Oh, we are very good, actually. Okay, I'm going into the involuntary system. So how do you develop the music of the involuntary? How does it live? Is it always through the support of the voluntary? Maybe not. Maybe. No, that's not for me. Oh yeah, it is for me. Involuntarily, we started the quiet again. Okay, bye-bye to you too. Okay, nothing is here now. So I'm going to play you a small part of Infinite Now, my opera from 2017. And what I would like, and you will really clearly hear, I hope, how we go from voluntary to into the involuntary world, and how we expose layers in the involuntary world, and how in the involuntary, in its own terms, you suddenly discover a terrain that you didn't know was there. So it's a kind, when you go to the voluntary, it's always above the earth. Yeah, the gesture goes, we know where it's going, we feel it, you know. Why do we feel it? And that is something, just for a moment to say. You know, if I had a small ball here, let's be very clear. If I wanted to throw this to you, you could imagine how long it will get, right? If I throw this to you, and you would lift your hands. Now, if I threw a much, much heavier ball, would be maybe a different time, slightly. And you would go down because you would know that the heavier ball, I will not be able to, to throw it so far away. We live in this world. Our body has been living in this world. Our body reacts to the physical laws of this world. And the laws are related to each other, can be some really chaotic sometimes, but there are basic things like Newton's gravity, like all kinds of things. If I threw something to this side, you would have catch it. You would have not done anything because you would know it's going here. How would you know? Because I did that, and the direction that I throw, it will follow. We know it, but maybe it shouldn't have been like that. Maybe I would have done this and the glass would go like that. Why is it continuing? Because I gave it energy, inertia. The inertia pulled it to the same direction. Yeah, I'm not a physicist, but I'm alive in this world, and I know what's going on, like everybody. And it's not about knowing; it's about how we actually move, breathe, doing everything. But we are not exactly aware of how much sustainability, how much knowledge of our body. We are all affected and obliged the same rules of behavior in a way. Yeah. So now let's go and see if I want to expose the world of involuntary reactions and terrain and how can I go into it? So we will start from a very voluntary place and then you will see how things are changing. And for this I will need the picture. Here. All right, that's for me. I'm not going to tell you about infinite now, it will take too long. We are just looking at that element of it.
Die schweren Geschosse reißen die Grabenböschung weg. Es ist das Wahnsinnigste an Erschütterung, was es gibt. Wo sie niederfegen, ist ein Massengrab. Und noch immer dieses Rollen drüben. Züge, Lastwagen, es hört nicht auf. Es heißt, dass von drüben auch Tanks eingesetzt werden sollen und Infanterieflieger.
Die Beine wollen nicht mehr. Die Hände zittern. Der Körper ist eine dünne Haut über unterdrücktem Wahnsinn. Über einem gleich hemmungslos ausbrechenden Gebrüll ohne Ende. Wir haben kein Fleisch und keine Muskeln mehr. Wir können uns nicht mehr ansehen, aus Furcht vor etwas Unberechenbarem. I don't know how long I've been sleeping. Finally, I made up my mind. I find a lighter in my pocket and start a small fire.
All right. So I think that you could hear that there was almost like a weight lifted, a screen lifted, and we could see inside. That's in my imagination. I hope you felt something akin to that. When we move from the voluntary system, which included the gestures of the guitar, which included a lot of things that were very clearly set as marker, to expose the breathing. And as we expose the breathing, and as the breathing got its own motivation, we got to the place where they were saying, where suddenly the breathing was not just the faceless cyclical of the breathing, but it was articulated by a rhythmic pattern. A very simple rhythmic pattern, but nevertheless a very present one. And so that suddenly inside the terrain of what we don't know, those involuntary systems, we got a clarity, a zoom in on one particle of how that thing is working. And as we were looking at it, it actually evolved to get a face. Yeah? And the last thing I would like to comment on and show you is a part of my fabrication of light. And I would like to connect this to talk about time and timelessness in that connection of the involuntary and voluntary. So when we think about the voluntary systems, they are very rational to some extent, because it's only what we know. What we know has a lot of connection to rationality. What we don't know, the subconscious, is many times very irrational, yeah? And is hidden from us. Not pun not intended with hidden. Maybe it is. Anyway, so when I'm thinking about temporality, the day, the year, the years divided by periods, divided by hours and minutes, I'm thinking about a progression, a story, something that we tell ourselves, pretending to know that we know. This is how it was, from here to here, to here, to here, to here. Timelessness is, we are kind of drowning in maybe cycles. And I think that those two tendencies of the timelessness and the time, the temporality, progressive temporality, really lead us to two branches which are really very much in friction those days. Because I see timelessness as connected to it's not the whole thing, but a part of timelessness can be connected to a religious experience, to a mystical experience. Everything that has to do with the subconscious, with something that we don't know, that we agree to accept, the fact that we don't know. And for some people, that is the religious, whereas the voluntary is very connected to enlightenment in a way. I want to get there. How do I get there? I have to be aware of what I'm doing. I have to be helped by, understanding the rules of what manipulates, what creates my way there. Yeah, so it's a kind of opening our eyes to the reality that we want to act in. And today, as you know, we really have a big branching between the religious to the enlightenment, but I would not only like to color it in this way, because as I said, it's not a dialectic. And what I have discovered is that in my work, I'm really moving things. Some things can be totally timeless, but they can actually become a gesture. Something can be temporal, but they actually do become unaware to themselves. They have the temporality of, when an insect is almost about to die and suddenly the leg is going like that. It is a gesture. It is a gesture. It is an involuntary gesture, but it's connected to a slow death. What is here voluntary, involuntary? It's becoming very, very complex at times. And I'm going to go now to one more idea and then play you a part of a fabrication of light. Are we supposed to finish at 1? Yes? Okay, so this will be the last thing. And as I said, questions catch me around. In fabrication of light, which is, by the way, all those pieces, as you see, are on the internet. If you put my name and, for example, Infinite Now, 2.5-hour opera, the whole thing is on the internet. So you are very welcome to them. And in a fabrication of light, I think that the whole place that I will play you now is actually a subconscious place. And I would like to connect it to one more idea, which is the instruments and their range and their behavior. You will see, and you heard, that the bass has a very, very physical meaning for me. That the difference between the registers and the behavior of the instruments is a part of the physicality in which I map the involuntary and voluntary, in which I build that cosmos that is also aware and also unaware at the same time. Just think about it when we hear now a part of the fabrication of light where I feel that is moving in a very involuntary way, but it's actually going somewhere and it's totally timeless. We don't need the picture. This can be loud. when you listen to this type of music, and we can close the, it seems like nobody wanted to do something. It all happened to them. It happened to the basses that they start to bubble up. It happened that we are focusing on the high point, and then it gets so warm that it creates that harmony. Because some chemical processes inside created it. Yeah? It's not that I want to express my emotion, that now I'm happy, or now, to say it very primitively. Yeah? We are dealing with chemical things that are needing their time, and that is why we get to timelessness. Because we are not saying, okay, in 2 measures I have to be in the next paragraph. I'm not able to shorten the time. I have to give it the time, just like with the water. I want my tea now, but until the water boils, and that is according to physical laws of nature, I better just wait or watch TV or whatever, because they are not going to boil faster unless I make the fire much stronger. Yeah. Thank you for very concentrated listening, and see you around.